Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you are doing well. And it's time for us to turn the page to some more edge prospects. And now we're moving on to guys who are definitely going to go in the first round. And I would love to have the opportunity to get them at 20, potentially. But they're just not quite good enough to go at 5, right? Like the two guys I did in the video this morning, yeah, those guys could go at 5, and I would be at least okay with it. In the case of Anderson, I'd love it, but Anderson and Wilson, I can see them both at 5 and be comfortable with it. This video, we've got some guys who, they're not good enough to go at 5. They might be a little too good to go at 20, but I'm going to wait them out and hope that they're there at 20. I'm definitely not going to reach like crazy to make sure I get them. I don't like them that much. So, a couple guys here. First guy we're going to take a look at here is Myles Murphy, and I'll tell you, this is a guy who, as of maybe 3 months ago, was being looked at as a top 5 guy, and somebody who a lot of Seahawks fans might have said would be the most likely outcome at number 5. But things have changed, and for a bevy of reasons, Myles Murphy has fallen off the board significantly. Some of the big boards have him going in the 20s. Sports Illustrated and the Draft Network still have him in the top 10, but barely. And his aggregate position is 17, so it's actually become believable that you could get him at 20. And that's going to be the question. Is he worth it at 20 if he is there? Because I don't think he's making it too much further than that. So 21 years old, which is great. It means he's got upside beyond what we see. He's going to get better the next few years just because he's going to get a little bit older. 6'5", 268 pounds. Now I'll say this. I feel like Murphy's going to end up being an edge, even in a 3-4 defense. That's a little heavier than typical for a 3-4 outside linebacker. However, I believe he's a really, really good athlete. Like his pro day numbers, and I'm not going to take the pro day numbers too seriously because they're pro day numbers, but they indicated that he's capable of moving the way you need an outside linebacker to move. So I think he can do it, and if he can't do it right now, he can drop a little bit of weight and do it. 33 3/4 inch arms, really good. 8.5 inch hands. 25 bench press reps. That's all he did at the combine. The hang up with him, I think, the main reason why he's fallen down these boards over the last several, I'd say several weeks, but really it's been a process that started a couple months ago. His 2022 season was a step back. He played in more games, but he made fewer plays in the backfield. Didn't really seem to progress that much as a player. If anything, he regressed. And it has some people wondering, what is this guy really? So there are still a lot of really positive traits with this guy, Myles Murphy. He's a plus character guy. He's got a great combination of speed and power. I think he'll be diverse at the NFL level. He'll be able to win with his speed and win with his power, which means he'll be good against the run and the pass. Should be scheme flexible. Should be able to run him in a 4-3 or a 3-4. He's explosive off the snap. He's good with his hands. And he has a variety of moves and counters in his skill set, which doesn't always happen with these 21-year-olds. I talked about Will Anderson in the video this morning. Will Anderson doesn't have a lot of moves and counters yet. He just wins with power. And both these guys are 21 years old. In fact, I think Murphy's a little bit younger. So a little more advanced in those areas than you would expect. So that's obviously great. We like that. So definitely a lot of positive things with him. Now, if you're looking at him as an edge rusher, which obviously I think that's where he projects to in the NFL, he doesn't have the elite bend that you would like in a truly elite edge rusher. And that would be okay if he had dominant power, but I don't think his power is dominant. It's certainly not Will Anderson level. And if he drops a little bit of weight, that'll become even a bigger concern. Sometimes he has issues finishing plays. It's like the Clowney thing, you know, where Clowney would get in there, disrupt the play, get to the quarterback, and then he just couldn't quite finish the play. Just couldn't quite get it done to actually accrue the stat. And even though I think he'll be fine in a 3-4, his size does make me feel like he's a slightly better fit in a 4-3. Not anything that would drive me away from him, but I do believe he'll be better in a 4-3 defense personally. So what I would say about Murphy is that he's an all-around great prospect, but I can't really say there's anything here that's like elite. He's got good speed. He's got good power. He's got good explosion. He's got good hands. Maybe the one thing would be he's further along with his pass rush repertoire than guys you would expect at 21. Maybe that's the one thing that's kind of elite here. But I don't think there's anything that's over the top here, which is why I think he's fallen from being a top 10, maybe even top 5 prospect. But what is here is more than good enough for me to say he's worthy of a pick at 20. And honestly, I don't think he gets that far. I think he does go sometime in the teens. If I had to guess, I'd say he goes probably just a few picks before our pick at 20. But if he's there at 20, I'm punching it in all day. I'm feeling great about that. I think that Myles Murphy is a guy who will probably even be better in the pros than he was in college. And I think that his skills translate very well to even our defense. All right, so that was Myles Murphy, hoping he drops to 20. Here's another guy who I would be pretty cool with the dropping to 28. This guy, again, not quite good enough to go at 5. I'm not doing that. No need for that. But if he's there at 20, if we're lucky enough for him to be there at 20, I'll jump on it. Georgia Bulldog, 22 years old. Thing to understand with these Georgia defenders is you cannot really look at the stats and derive a ton of meaning from it. The stats are never going to be over the top for most Georgia defenders because there's just too many good players to go around. It's the Travon Walker effect. 22 years old, 6'2", 238 pounds, tiny bit undersized, but nothing I'm really worried about. 62 and 5/8 inch arms, not remarkable, but okay. 9-inch hands. His combine was career altering, I think. 4.3940, incredible for a guy of this size. 1.52 10-yard split. The explosion and burst off the line is going to be off the charts. 41.5 inch vert, incredible for an edge. 10-foot 8-inch broad, really solid. All the big boards now have him in the first round, and this was a guy who was a universal second-round pick until relatively recently. So he has skyrocketed through the rankings, partially because of the combine, partially because of the general crush on Georgia defenders right now. So you may notice that every big board has him going before 20, as does the aggregate, except for PFF. So if you can get him at 20, you've actually kind of gotten a little bit of a value steal, I would say. So the numbers do not back up what you see at the combine. Obviously, that's understood. Last year, he had 18 tackles in 8 games, 3 sacks, 7.5 sacks combined over the last 2 years for the Georgia defense. But again, you have to look beyond the stats with these guys because Georgia's just full of guys who share the stats. That's really what it is. So Nolan Smith, ton of talent, not a lot of production. Where do we end up landing with him? Obviously, the combine speaks to his incredible athleticism. That is where we start with him. That is the first and biggest positive. Also, I think this is worth noting, he was considered one of the locker room leaders for the Bulldogs, especially on that defense. And think about that defense over the last couple years, the players they've had pass through. Guys like Travon Walker, Lewis Sine, Channing Tyndall. There was one other linebacker who got drafted high as well. There's Jalen Carter. There's Keely Ringo. It's a pretty long list of very, very respected and very, very talented defenders. And Nolan Smith was considered to be one of their locker room leaders. Great character, great leadership. He plays with a ferocity that is just unmatched. He has a lot of intensity to him. He's always pushing, always giving maximum effort. When Georgia used him in zone drops, they didn't do it that often. They didn't do it very often. We are talking about a small sample size here, but he seemed fine at it. He seemed like he could do it. So for whatever it's worth, the little bit we've been able to see there, it seems like he'll be okay there. Explosive first step. I mean, 1.52 10-yard split indicates he's just going to be blowing past people like crazy. So explosive first step. He's very skilled with his punches. Good bend. Excellent against the run due to his strength. So Nolan Smith, if he stays healthy, I don't see how he doesn't become a great 3-down all around really solid 3-4 outside linebacker. I think he's a great fit for a 3-4. I think that's where he'll be best. I think that the ferocity and character that he displays combine to make somebody who's not going to let an opportunity get by him to be a good player. And he's strong enough to hold up against the run. He's not going to be trying to spin out of blocks and giving up gaps to get off these offensive linemen. You're not going to have to worry about that. And he's got the bend and explosion and speed to excel as a pass rusher. Now, you're going to need to give him a little bit of time as a pass rusher. He is going to need extended opportunities to grow into that role. His hand usage when he's engaged with a blocker is not great, which leads to block shedding that leaves something to be desired right now. Not unreasonable for a 22-year-old that hasn't played a ton in recent years. Like, even in his biggest year yet, which was 2021, 53 tackles and 4.5 sacks. Not anything to really freak out about. But you're going to have to give him that time. Kind of like we did with Mafe last year. We got Boye Mafe in here, and we kind of knew he's raw. That first year, not going to offer much as a pass rusher, but he contributed as a plus run defender as a rookie. So Nolan Smith may follow a similar track here where he needs a year to become that pass rusher. The only concern I have is how long it's going to take for him to develop the pass rushing skills. But he should be playable immediately because he's going to be really good against the run. He should offer something as a pass rusher just because he's so explosive. And you put all that together, and I would be comfortable taking him at 20 if he's there. The way it's looking, it looks like he may not be at 20. But if he is there, I'm on it. I am definitely on him at 20. I would punch in that pick pretty comfortably. I will acknowledge the fact that he is a bit of a combine warrior. We are dealing with a little bit of a Mike Mamula here. But I think there are very clear and obvious reasons, good reasons, why he did not produce massively at Georgia. All right, so those are the two guys I'm hoping are there at 20. See you guys later. Go Hawks.